Hey, what's up guys? This is Jason with Jadren Aquatics. Thanks guys for joining me again. Today we're out in the fish room and we are working on the issue that we've been having. So you might have seen in previous videos, I began to realize that the hardness in my water was too low. So I had soft water. Since I have almost all guppies now, the consensus seems to be that you need to have your hardness somewhere over 200. So the question has been what exactly to do. Now you may remember in other videos that I decided to put crushed coral in some of the aquariums. I've been putting about 2 red solo cups full in each one of the 10 gallons. It's a little over a pound. Typically when you use crushed coral, it naturally will raise your pH to about 8.3. So my concern with putting that much crushed coral in there is that it would begin to raise my pH too high. Now my pH, when it comes out of the tap, it's about 7.6. So I didn't want to raise it any higher than that. So after running it for about 3 weeks, I've had no change whatsoever in the pH. I think part of the problem is it takes crushed coral a while to dissolve, and that dissolving process is what begins to change your hardness and what also begins to change the pH level. So before we start talking about anything, I want you guys to know this, that if you're having some sort of problem like this, don't chase pH. Let me say that again. Don't chase pH. That's not what you want to do. You want stable water parameters. That's your goal. If you have higher pH or you have lower pH, just try to keep that stable. So if you have your alkalinity where it needs to be so that it's holding on to that pH for long periods of time, you'll be good to go. You start adding pH up and pH down, you're going to have all kind of problems, and pretty much what you're going to do is you're going to crash your tank, or you're going to crash the cycle and you're going to be having to start all over. So hear me when I say that. Don't chase pH. So the main thing that we're dealing with right now is hardness. So I'm trying to determine what's the correct way to deal with my hardness problem. So let's talk about hardness. So first of all, you've got 2 measurements for it. You've got GH, which is general hardness, and you have KH, which is carbonate hardness. GH, what it measures is all the dissolved solids that are within your water. And KH measures specifically the calcium carbonate that's in your aquarium. So, with that being said, I want to try to get my GH up to about 200. So first of all, let's go ahead and let's test. I've got my 40-gallon mixing barrels right here. We're going to go ahead and test this and see what, this is just tap water right now. We're going to test this and we're going to see what currently my GH level is at. Now the testing kit that I'm going to use currently is I have the Tetra strips, but they're very difficult to read when it comes to hardness. So I'm going to use the API set. It comes with a GH test and a KH test. Right now I'm just going to focus on GH to get that where I want it to be. So we've got a little chart here that shows us how many drops it takes. So we're going to go ahead and take this and get our water sample in there and find out exactly where it's at. Alright, so we've got the water right to the line. So you put 1 drop at a time. Then when you first do it, it's going to turn the water orange. So what you're trying to do is you keep adding drops and you count the amount of drops until it finally turns to a yellowish kind of green color. So we'll speed this up and see what it comes out to. Okay, so it took 5 drops to turn this from the orange to the yellowish green color. So when you take a look at this chart that's here, you look at 5 drops, it says that it is 89.5 parts per million. We want to get it up to over 200. 200 takes about 12 drops, so we're a long way from it. So you're asking, what are you going to use to raise it? First of all, I want to thank Victor, that's Victor for you guys that don't know. He gave me this idea. he uses RO water and then he remineralizes the water. And what he uses to remineralize this water is it's a product from Seachem called Equilibrium. So this is the product that he uses right here. It's a product from Seachem called Equilibrium. He adds this into his RO water to get the minerals back up to where he wants it, or in other words, to get his general hardness up to the point at which he wants it at. So whenever he's using RO water, he's starting with a KH or GH of 0. Well, since I don't want to use RO water. I used to do salt water for a long period of time, and I hated having to run RO units all the time to have water. So with 50-something tanks that I have now, I do not want to go through that process again. So I want to make the tap water that I have work to make it as easy as possible. So again, we're starting off with a baseline of 5, which again is 89, and we want to get it up to about somewhere between 12 and 15 drops, which is over 200. So when you read what it says to do on the back of this, it says to raise it by 3, you want to add 1 tablespoon for every 20 gallons. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add 4 tablespoons of this to my 40-gallon mixing tub, and let's see what that comes out with. So we've got our aquarium co-op spoon here, so we can measure out tablespoons. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we've got 4 in there now. So we're gonna let this set for probably about 30 minutes and let that recirculating pump get that stuff all mixed up, and then we'll come back and we'll do another measurement on it and see exactly where we're at. Okay, so after adding 4 tablespoons into 40 gallons of water, it took us 14 drops. So let's take our sheet here that has our scale on it. Right, you can see right there. And for 14, the table actually stops at 12. At 12 gives you 214 parts per million. Basically for each drop it goes up about 18. So that means 36, 40. So with adding 4 of those in there, it puts us at about 250 parts per million, which I've seen a lot of other people, they get theirs up around 300 or so with no problems whatsoever. So I think what I might do is I might do maybe 3.5 tablespoons per container, per the 40 gallons. Part of the reason is I'm probably going to have to buy that stuff in a lot bigger size. Okay, so now we've got the decision to be made. We've got our water mixed in here, and we've got all of these tanks here. So what am I going to do? So right now, again, all of these that have tap water that are in them, they are at about 80 parts per million. So I did a little research trying to find out, can you shock your fish by raising the general hardness level? Couldn't really find a lot of information out there on it per se. Some people said probably better not. Then I found a post that was actually done by some of the scientists at Seachem, and they said that it's better to gradually raise it. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take all of these tanks, and I'm just going to do a 10% water change on each one of them, probably for the next 5 or 6 days, and just slowly raise the general hardness. So here's the game plan that I have now. So we're going to raise the general hardness on all the aquariums by using the Seachem Equilibrium, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to keep the crushed coral that we have in all the tanks already. The main reason I want to keep that in there is for its buffering ability. I've noticed again that I'm not seeing any pH swings because of the crushed coral, but I am noticing that my alkalinity is staying up better, and that's one of the other concerns that I had. So I think with the combination of the two, I think it's going to work out really, really well. All right, so let's go ahead and let's quickly do 10% water changes on all of these. Change a gallon out of all these 10-gallon tanks. 8. Okay, so we've got the change on 8. So that basically means that we went from 89 parts per million to 143 parts per million. So we raised it about 60 or so parts per million, which probably sounds like a lot, but I think that's a fairly gradual change on them. So we're going to go ahead and keep an eye on this, and I'll keep you guys updated to see how well this is going. So I'll keep you guys updated to see how everything is going. Keep measuring the general hardness and see where we're at. So hopefully at the end of this, I'll get into a routine where I'm keeping the same amount of equilibrium every time I put water in the changing barrels, so that it's always the same, so that when I'm always doing water changes on all the live bearer tanks, I'm constantly being able to keep that level above 200. Thanks again, guys, for joining me. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys learned something from this. If there's anything that you guys saw that maybe I did wrong or said wrong, please be sure to leave me a comment. If you guys have any other ideas, I'd love to hear your opinion on any of it. I really appreciate communicating with you guys, and I thank you so much for stopping by for another video. And thanks again, guys, and God bless.